It's about that time.
Right.
Okay, it's 6 o'clock. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. We'll start the meeting. I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. So at 6 o'clock, we'll convene this meeting tonight. If you would, silence your phones or turn your phones off. And I'd like to invite Pastor John Little from Victor Church to say our invocation tonight. Just this right there, that'll be just fine.
Thank you, Mayor Miller, for your kind invitation to be here today, and I give honor to you and all of our city leaders. Let's bow our heads and let's pray together. Great and mighty God, thank you for this time that we have to be able to come together for the purpose of our city. I thank you for it. Sometimes we don't give thanks for the small things, and we really should. We reserve our thanks for big things maybe that we want. But today we want to say thank you for just another day, for every blessing that you gave to us today, big or small. We're grateful. And I would just ask for your blessing to be upon this proceeding. We ask for your blessing so many times, and that's okay. Your word tells us we can do that. But we also want to bless you today. We can bless you in how we live our lives and how we represent you and how we give honor to you. And so we pray that you would give divine wisdom for this meeting tonight, that you would bless, that you would allow your fingerprints to be upon it for the good, for the cause of this good city and all of the citizens here. And we thank you and bless you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Pastor. If you would join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item on the agenda is announcements. I have no announcements other than to state that Congressman Thomas Kent's not here tonight. I think he's sick, so he won't be with us tonight. Next item is item number 5, City Manager's Report. So, Mr. Cunningham, do you want to give us that report?
Sure. I'll address this, some of this to the council, but some of it to the audience too. In your packet is the notice of grant and agreement award from the USDA for the Brushy Creek tributary repair. The Brushy Creek tributary is better known as the creek that runs from Alsop on Highway 59 through the neighborhood to Mill Street and Qantas Park, and then through the Lake-FEMA property and the bridge that is out on Lamb Street, and then on through the neighborhoods on the east side of town all the way to Gaglia Street. The grant has an approved budget of $590,411.21, of which the city must come up with $138,757 as our match. I urge you to approve this grant, as it will be our first step in fixing the creek and bridges. Hopefully we'll be able to do some in-kind work for a portion of our share of the grant. Texas Water Development Board loan, we're slowly making progress on the paperwork for the TWDB loan. We have filled out all of our necessary paperwork. The engineers are preparing their paperwork for the Texas Water Development Board for the engineering of the project. You'll be getting project progress information as this project takes off. First, the engineering and cost analysis to see how many sewer lines we can replace for the money we were borrowing, and then the actual construction. I do not expect any dirt to be moved for about a year from now. The Bowie Lake-FEMA Grant and Bureau of Reclamation information. As stated at our last meeting, I'm working on a grant that is actually from the Federal Economic Development Administration of the federal government, but is actually a FEMA grant as I understand it. I've just about completed the grant application, but I'm waiting on letters from the residents of Bowie Lake about the hardships that draining the lake will put them through. I will be getting the letters from property owners as well as Montague County and Goldberg Independent School District as to what it will do to their property values and tax income. I've also spoken to a person at the Bureau of Reclamation who is going to try to figure out how they can help us. If the lake was a public water supply, it would be easy for them to help us, but since it's not, they're going to try and figure out how they can justify a grant, which is very encouraging. They want to help us. I have plans on the wall here for the community room remodel. We're doing a walkthrough on Wednesday the 26th and are opening bids on March the 3rd. As of today, we have not given out any plans, but hope to in the next day or two. If we don't get any bidders, we will then advertise in the Wichita Falls paper and Decatur paper for out-of-town contractors. So you'll know, I got a list of local contractors from David last week and emailed several contractors inviting them to bid, and of course we advertise in the local media. City departments will be doing the parking lot construction, the electrical wiring and computer cabling, and we will also hire an HVAC contractor to do the new ducts for heating and cooling. Ken Legenberg and Wayne Thomas from BTU, which is Bryan, Texas Utilities, came last Tuesday for their quarterly visit. The news on the electric rates remains good. Wind and solar continue to make rates lower and more stable. BTU's main generators are gas-fired. They have a very large generator that is a main generating unit, but they also have 2 gas-fired turbines that can be started up in times of high electrical usage. They start up very quickly, so they can help alleviate any problems very quickly. Low natural gas prices are keeping rates low, and the outlook for the near future is that gas prices will remain low. BTU is also contracted for a solar array of 125 megawatts that will be coming online in a year or so. Right now we're paying in the area of $45 a megawatt, and as things stand now, we'll be seeing a decrease over the next few years of our costs dropping to $42 to $43 a megawatt, or maybe lower. Sometimes BTU goes on the open market and buys power because prices are so low because of wind and solar that is less expensive to buy than what they can generate on their own, which is another way of saying that BTU does an excellent job of managing their load and looks for every advantage to keep our costs lower. I continue to look at solar as an alternative to our electric requirements, but if we installed solar today, we'd be paying a little more than our wholesale cost from BTU. And one of the real problems is that solar prices are increasing because of the coronavirus in China, and it's what it's doing to their export prices. And one other thing of note, the Community Development Block Grant, all of the paperwork for that grant has been done, and we're waiting on the Texas Department of Agriculture to start the bidding process on the sewer line that runs parallel to Mill Street under the railroad. We should see that project start in the next month or so. State of Texas in the last legislative session changed the Community Development Block Grant Program, and that the next grant process scoring will be done by the state. Like everything else in the last legislative session, the state thinks they can do things better than our local government can. The state tried to get rid of the Texas Municipal League in the last session, and I thought it was unsuccessful. But when you go to vote, you will see the proposition on the ballot to stop the use of taxpayer funding for lobbying. That's a direct assault on the TML, and really an assault on small communities in Texas. we don't have the money to pay a lobbyist, and we use the TML to do our lobbying for us. It's a constant battle to keep the state of Texas out of our business.
Okay, thank you, Bert. Any questions or comments from the council?
Bert, I'd just like to say that I want to give you an attaboy on working hard for that grant for the lake. That's excellent work and good news. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Stand up, Bert.
I'm up. You just can't tell it.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item, item number 7, consent agenda items. We have 3 items here, approval of the meeting. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Public comments. I skipped right over there. Anyone have any comments for public? Yes, sir. Come to the podium, state your name and where you live.
My name is Dylan Steen, and Bert, Chuck pretty much jumped in front of me there, but I just wanted to say at the last meeting, a lot of folks were here expressing their concerns over the Bowie Lake. Had every right to be heard, but you do a job, sir, that I don't think a lot of people understand what all you do. I don't understand what all you do, don't want to know what you do.
Well,
But
you can come help me anytime.
okay, I'll be up here tomorrow, Bert. But I just want to say, from my point of view, I think that you kind of got thrown under the bus a little bit at the last meeting. I felt like you should have been allowed to speak first, because you could have answered a lot of people's questions and concerns before, and calmed them down a little bit about what was going on, because you do a lot of work for this city that a lot of people don't see. I'm one of them that likes to get my hands dirty and ask questions. I read the paper, I ask questions of folks, of my council members. So I know that you're digging in deep all the time, Bert, and people don't give you enough credit for what you do. And I understand you get a paycheck, but they don't pay you enough to take a lot of the thrown under the bus that you take. So I just want to say as a citizen, thank you for the work that you do for all of us.
Anyone else for comments? Okay, then we'll move on to the next agenda item, number 7, consent agenda items. We have 3 items on their approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Resolution 2020-05, resolution authorizing the city manager to write off uncollected utility accounts receivables over 15 months delinquent. And my goodness, that thing's got $15,993.69 of uncollected utility bills. And in Resolution 2020-06, resolution authorizing the city manager to write off uncollected library overdue fines of over 15 months delinquent, $26.20. And those details are in your packet if the council has any comments about those. If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve these consent agenda items.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Buckmaster?
Aye.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Mr. Bell?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Okay. Moving right along. Next agenda, item number 8, old business. I don't know that we have any old business to discuss, so we'll skip on to number 9, new business. This is Resolution 2020-04, a resolution requesting financial assistance from the Texas State Department of Transportation for our airport improvements. And I think Stoney Lawrence is here to give us an update on that. Stoney?
Hold this mic.
Yes, sir. Just hold it up close to you because it's not very sensitive.
Basically, what this covers is, in 2017, we applied for a grant with TWDB Aviation to do some runway repair at the airport. We then took that and it was approved in the 2018-2019 budget. And what this is a resolution to begin that process, and it is for $2.25 million. The city's share of that would be $225,000. Once this resolution is passed, TxDOT said it'll take about 4 months to get the final engineering design. We'll go out for bid for the consultants, and it'll be placed out for bid for the contractors, so you're looking at construction around August, sometime in August, late August. You should have a map or a layout of the airport there for you. Kind of see in the green, basically what we're gonna do is the runway will be milled completely up and relay the taxiways that we did in 2012 and 2013. All they're gonna do is resurface those, basically put a sealant on them. Same thing for the ramp area, they'll put a new sealant on that, and then of course they'll have to restripe everything. But again, like I said, this was already approved in the 2018-2019 budget. We're supposed to start construction this past year, but TXDOT, they're kind of behind a little bit. Bert and I actually went to Austin, February 10th, and had the implementation meeting with them on that. So basically, like I said, our first payment to them will be for engineering design, which will be $15,000. And once they get the engineering completed, design completed, then we'll have to come up with our other shares. But I will tell you from past experience on this, don't get yourself stuck on that number, because that number will usually change. And like I explained with the mayor this morning, in that event, we still have to pay our 10% of the $225,000, but in the event after it's bid out, bid at a lower price, reimburse us for that difference like they did in 2012 and 2013. Any questions?
Stoney, how long do they anticipate the airport being closed with the runway being chipped up and then relayed?
Well, again, that's going to be one of them come out with the street, so it depends on the weather.
Okay.
It should 3 to 5 months.
So you're saying the runway will be shut down for 3 to 5 months once they start?
Yes,
So where do we take off and land from?
we don't. The only way we can do that is if we get FAA approval to take off on the taxiways, but very rarely do they let that happen due to insurance reasons.
So we'll notify everybody that's planning on using the airport for that period of time. that
Yeah,
will
as
be-
soon as I get an exact time frame and we start the construction process, I'll have a meeting with all those individuals out there and give them a plan and a time frame so they can move their aircraft if they need to.
In your documentation and on the map, it says rehabilitate and mark. Rehabilitate means just basically resurface the runway.
Yeah, they'll mill it up, which basically they'll grind it up and start fresh from the base surface and then relay new asphalt. And they'll have to remark all the markings and the runway markings. And like I said, when they do the taxiways, they'll have to remark all that too.
Okay. Any other questions? No further questions. We'll entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Second, Ms. Higgins. Okay, Mr. Bell, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Ms. Buckmaster?
Aye.
Okay, that takes care of that one. The next item of new business is number 9.2, appoint the Community Development Board. I think we have some folks here that's on the list to be appointed to the board. We'll vote on, there's 6 of them here, so we'll vote on them individually here. The first one is Glenda Durham. Ms. Durham, are you here? Oh, hi. Okay, I receive a nomination for Ms. Durham.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Ms. Buckmaster, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Mr. Bell?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, welcome. Okay, the next one is Kim Williams. Kim is, oh, hi there. I need a motion to accept her nomination.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Buckmaster?
Aye.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
And Mr. Bell?
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations, Ms. Williams. Next one is Kevin Myers, the radio personality. Okay, I have a motion for him.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Buckmaster?
Aye.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Mr. Bell,
Aye.
Ms. Higgins,
Aye.
Mr. Malone.
Aye.
Okay. Next one is Dylan Steen. Have a motion for Mr. Steen.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Ms. Buckmaster,
Aye.
Mr. Love,
Aye.
Mr. Malone,
Aye.
little hesitation. Ms. Higgins,
Aye.
Mr. Bell.
Aye.
Okay, congratulations, Mr. Dillon. Sylvia Henning. Sylvia here? Well, hello there. Do I have a motion to nominate her?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Bell,
Aye.
Mr. Malone,
Aye.
Ms. Higgins,
Aye.
Mr. Love,
Aye.
Ms. Buckmaster,
Aye.
and Galen Burris. Have a motion for her.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Ms. Buckmaster,
Aye.
Mr. Love,
Aye.
Ms. Higgins,
Aye.
Mr. Bell,
Aye.
Mr. Malone.
Aye.
Okay, well, congratulations, all those new board members.
One more.
You also have a Roger Whitaker.
Oh, I didn't have that on my list, sir. Okay. Roger Whitaker.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Buckmaster,
Aye.
Mr. Love,
Aye.
Mr. Malone,
Aye.
Ms. Higgins,
Aye.
and Mr. Bell.
Aye.
I didn't get that update in my packet there. Sorry about that. Okay, next agenda item is from the Planning and Zoning. Consider recommendations from the Planning and Zoning on request from Wendell Robbins to replat 7.71 acres in the TE&L Company Survey number 3422 A-811, creating Lot 1, 2, and 3, Block 1, Robbins Edition. Mr. Bill.
It was the Planning and Zoning Commission that unanimously recommended the council to do that, so if there's any questions about it, right now it's agricultural land, but it's zoned as residential. And so this would be creating these 3 lots.
Do you have any idea what sort of structures he plans on building?
Single-family homes on each one with a driveway facing, it's Matthews there, Matthews Street. Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, we'll entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
Second? Second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Buckmaster,
Aye.
Mr. Love,
Aye.
Ms. Higgins,
Aye.
Mr. Malone,
Aye.
Mr. Bell.
Aye.
Okay. The next one is consider recommendation from the Planning and Zoning on request from Gary and Larissa Gregory to replat the southeast 140 feet of Lot 3 and all of Lot 4, Block 2, Sansom Edition, creating Lot 4R, Block 2, Sampson Edition. You want to tell us what that was about, Bill?
Okay, yes, again, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend this. It's taking these lots that would be non-conforming and putting them together so that they'll make, one sellable, usable lot for the city.
Any questions? Okay, do we have a motion to approve this? Is there a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
Okay, the second?
Second.
Mr. Bell. Okay, Mr. Bell, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
Ms. Buckmaster?
Aye.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Okay, and the last one is consider recommendation from the Planning and Zoning on request from John and Carla Swafford to replat all of Lot 7 and Lot 8, Block 5, revised North Park subdivision, creating Lot 7R, Block 5, revised North Park subdivision. Bill, you want to tell us about this one?
Again, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend this approval. Here, these lots are, they're on Mason Street, and they're unusable the way they are. There's a lot of setback with the alley that's there, so these being combined into this one lot 7 on it, will again make it a usable, sellable piece of property.
Okay, any questions? Do we have a motion to approve this request?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Ms. Buckmaster, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Mr. Malone? Ms. Higgins? And Mr. Bell?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Bill, for bringing those to us tonight. And the next item is number 6, consider notice of grant and agreement award from USDA. Bert kind of touched on this a while ago, so Bert, you want to give us some more information on this one?
Basically, you have the signing part of the form here, along with the notice of grant and award. There is a lengthy contract that tells all of, well, it's here, it's in your package, so you can see what it is composed of, all the rules and regulations of USDA. So once we sign this, then we'll get a notice to proceed. I don't know what exactly the next step will be. I've already contacted the engineers to tell them that we're ready to start on this, and they're working on it already, so.
Okay. Any questions about this? Okay, if no questions, we'll entertain a motion to approve this one as well.
So moved.
Mr. Bell, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Buckmaster?
Aye.
Mr. Love?
Aye.
Mr. Malone?
Aye.
Ms. Higgins?
Aye.
And Mr. Bell? Okay, thank you very much for that one. Moving right along. Number 7, set a date for the council for a workshop on rules of procedure. There's been a lot of talk about rules of procedure updates, modifications, changes over the years and months, and so we just need to pick a date for a workshop to discuss these rules of procedure. So what does the council want to do on picking a date? Does the council want to do this?
Mr. Mayor, is this something that should be a workshop on just rules of procedure? Is it something that should be worked into the charter for the charter commission?
No, I
I'm
think the charter
confused.
needs to be separate.
Oh, charter separate, okay. I'm just asking, just clarification, okay.
The rules of procedure would be how the council conducts their business, and so that's not
Okay.
business.
So do we want to do, set a workshop for rules of procedure? I guess not, so we'll
Well-
just, any comments or suggestions?
I feel like we should. I've said before, I feel like we should. We should have a set rules of procedure, which we do have one, but they're very vague as to what has to happen. What happens is you come up against an issue and there's no resolution to it because there's no set rule. So, we can make this as in-depth or as not in-depth as y'all want to do.
Any more discussion, or do we have a motion to approve this request?
Well, I've read Craig Stalkup's partake on this. There's a lot of things on there I like, but it's way too in-depth for Bowie, I feel. Okay, I don't have any objections to talking about revising the one we have, but if we're going into a 26-page rules of procedure, I think that's a little out of our ballpark than what we need to do.
What I would suggest that we do would be to take his and take out the parts that we don't feel are applicable or whatever. I thought his was probably a good starting point, so that's why I kind of printed it out for y'all to pick at or
Right.
whatever. But, we can go from the other way and put stuff in if if y'all rather do that. It's up to y'all.
There's also a copy I was obtained here the other day, the rules of procedure for the county. They're somewhat similar, but again, these would just be guidelines for us to use,
Right.
whether it's theirs or the one that Craig Stallcup put together or ones we create ourselves. It's a starting point. So I think the consensus is they probably need to be updated or reviewed, changed, but it's up to the council on what y'all want to do, and how you want to do it. So I guess as we follow the agenda here, is to set a date for a workshop.
My thing was, I mean, that it's not gotta be a all-day thing. I mean, maybe, 30 minutes after a meeting one night, we can just kind of sit down, and if everybody's already gone through it and has what they think needs to be put in, then it shouldn't take very long at all.
Is there a motion to approve this
And I
request?
like the idea of doing it after an existing meeting or before, something like that.
Right.
Rather than having a
When
whole
we have a
separate
light
night.
meeting, one week when we have not much on the agenda or whatever.
So what's the,
Well, so do I hear y'all saying you want to have a workshop? You don't want to necessarily set March 8th or whatever it might be, but you do want to do it after a meeting sometime?
What does the load look like next, do you have any idea for next meeting?
Nothing so far.
I would just say sometime in the next couple of
me a
months,
week
whenever
and
the
I'll let
mayor
you know.
deems we're having a light meeting, put it on the end of that meeting.
Yeah.
And I think that's good enough just to kind of get some direction for Sandy to be able to talk with folks and say, this might be the week that we're doing it, but
Yeah.
you guys can be able to stay later. That's
Right.
okay. If it's still what the council wants to do, look at it and set it up for a workshop. So I don't really know that we need a motion.
Don't need a motion
for
that-
that, just as long as there's a consensus.
Okay,
and
hopefully
we
we
still
can-
wanna look at it.
hopefully we'll have a night where it's a light agenda, we can slip it in there and get it over with. Is that okay with everybody? Okay. Then the next item is consider counselor process for agenda items. Mr. Kent had talked to me about this a couple of times, and he's brought this up last meeting about the agenda items, and he's not here to talk about it tonight, so does anybody on the council want to comment on this item?
Would it,
Really, that's a rules of procedure.
I was gonna say, if it's covered under the previous one, we can address it when we change.
I agree.
So I feel like that's what we have most of the problems with, is trying to get things on the agenda. I know Bert's having problems getting things on the agenda that we need to take care of, and we need to move forward with that.
So I think we can cover 7 and 8 all under the workshop.
So is someone having trouble getting things on the agenda? I'm not aware, Bert, are you having problems?
I've given you a couple of things and you hadn't put them on the agenda yet, so.
City charter,
Right.
sewer rate, that's things we need to talk about.
Okay.
They're very important.
I know they are. We'll get those on there. Okay, then we'll just let that one ride like we did the other here with the, that'll be taken care of with the rules of procedure. Okay, that ends our agenda, so we'll close this meeting at 6:32.
You can say,
Yeah, I need y'all's.
Bert's got
Thank y'all for coming.
copies over there.
I agree. I think that this is a little more detailed than what we normally do. I just wasn't sure what everybody wanted to keep in there and what to put in there, so.
he took
I mean, depending on what you think is important or not important.
The agenda is the most important.
Yes, I think that's the issue.
Let's get done.